All right, let's move on to Friday night. I actually have nothing circled, and I'm going to give you a little cheat code in degeneracy. So Friday nights, like college basketball card, is usually pretty poor. So if you're no, I've been this for like 20 years. It's always been this way. There've been a couple more bigger games on Friday nights at times, but they've always been bad cards. So like if you had a girlfriend or now my wife, that's always when I was like, hey, you want to do something? You always have to make sure you do it on Friday night. So I was away in Cleveland, and then it's like, we got back for it's kind of busy for Valentine's Day, and I was like, let's not deal with all the crowds for Valentine's. Let's go out to dinner on Friday night, and we'll hang out. And so yeah, Friday night is Valentine's Day. And that's how it should be. It should be every Friday night, a Friday night in February. So I have nothing circled. If there's an egregious number that's off, I will bet it and watch. It's a horrible card. I was digging and digging, and line just came out. Let's see. As you guys are talking, maybe I'll see a line that looks off to me. Mike, I'll throw it to you. What do you got for Friday night?
Well, I'm just going to tell the wife, hey, would you like to watch a high-scoring Horizon League basketball game? Because I sure would.
Oh, how romantic.
Over 148.5, Wright State, Cleveland State. Their first meeting, 162 points for the total. The Raiders are red hot. They've won 5 of 6. Trey Calvin is an absolute gunner. So he's going to get the green light, maybe take 30 shots in this game. The Raiders are 20th in points per game, 279th in points per game allowed. They're 7th nationally in shooting percentage, 243rd in 2-point percentage defense, and they're going to play fast. They're 14th in possessions per game. But as I dig deeper, because this was the only one, I agree with you, it was a really thin slate. As I dug deeper into this, you start to look at these two teams in Horizon League play when you put together their performance against the closing total, 23-9 to the over. That's 72%. Cleveland State was happy to get sped up in their first meeting. They're not a very fast team in terms of tempo, but they went ahead and played at Wright State's preferred tempo. They got 4 scorers to go for double digits per game. They have a 7-man rotation. I really like this about Cleveland State and potentially for them to win the Horizon League tournament. They have a 7-man rotation that's played every game together this year. So that kind of continuity and also sharing the basketball, I think really ends up playing in their favor. And then finally, like I said, 72% between the two of them to go to the over, and they've done it drastically. Wright State's gone over the closing total in Horizon League play by over 10 points per game. Cleveland State at 9.8 points per game. That's both top 15 in the country in conference play as it relates to total. So why not have some fun if you're going to watch a game? I believe this one's on ESPNU. Go for a game that, well, the final thing I'll say, interestingly, in a lot of Horizon League games, I ended up benefiting from this, I want to say last week in the Youngstown State game. They can have slow starts, and then these teams can score 100 points in the second half, no problem. So at no point do I think this total will be dead, even if it gets off to a slow start out of the gates. So I'm going to go over the Raiders and the Vikings here.
Did you say it was on ESPNU?
I believe so. I think it was one of those
so
on the ticker, like ESPN Plus / ESPNU.
All right, so if that's the case, yeah, it looks like it is. So you can have some rose petals, get the rose petals out and sprinkle them from the front door all the way to your TV and have ESPNU on. And then at 6:58, take your wife or significant other to the front door and guide her to the TV and watch a little Horizon League action. I can't think of a more romantic way to spend an evening. BJ, can you top that? Any date ideas here?
I can make the evening a little more romantic. Stucky
Okay.
is maybe branch off a little bit of those rose petals and lead it to your laptop or your iPad and fire up ESPN Plus and turn on
maybe get the fireplace too going.
Maybe get the fireplace going and turn on another Horizon League game. How about Detroit and Oakland? I like Oakland +1 at home. They beat Detroit in the previous meeting. They did it without their starting shooting guard, Blake Lampman, who's their main 3-point shooter. And the reason Oakland won that game is because they went to the free throw line 29 times, which really isn't surprising because they're the number 1 team in the Horizon League in free throw rate. But they're also the number 1 team in the Horizon in free throw rate allowed, which is huge against Detroit, who is shooting close to 80% from the charity strike in conference play. And Detroit is the number 1 frequency team in the country in terms of isolation sets. Oakland's very good at defending them. They're top 60 in points per possession allowed. Oakland is also allowing under 33% from beyond the arc in conference play, which is huge against Detroit, who's a top 10 team in the country in 3-point field goal percentage. And in the last meeting held them just 8 of 26 from beyond the arc. In Detroit, they're 357th in the country in terms of their percentage of points coming from 2-point made field goals. So if you can keep them off the free throw line and you can defend the 3-point line pretty well, which two things Oakland is very capable of doing, you should be able to hold them in check. And if you look at Detroit, they've only won 3 games in conference play away from home. One of them was on December 1st against Purdue Fort Wayne. The other 2 came against IUPUI and Green Bay, who are 2 of the worst teams in the entire country. So Oakland +1 at home to add on to just a wonderful Friday night of Valentine's Day with your significant other.
What are your thoughts on playing the alternate line there? Because Detroit, to me, is a boom or bust team because of exactly how you laid it out. Like, if they make 12 or 13 3-pointers, they'll win this game outright, but they'll shoot their way right out of the gym and lose by 15 if it's not flowing, particularly with, Davis leading the way, bombing away from 3.
Don't hate it at all, Mike. Yeah. What better way to spend Valentine's Day with an Oakland alt line, watching ESPN Plus along with the other Horizon League game. Can't think of a better way to spend Valentine's Day.
Take your relationship
to the next level.
Horizon. No, to a new horizon.
Oh, this sounds like an ad read, Stucky. Don't waste this for free. If you're good at something, never do it for free.
All right. Yeah, no lines look off for me. So I'm gonna sprinkle. I'm gonna sprinkle some Horizon League action and follow you guys on Friday night. But let's move on to Saturday. I started things off with Nova. That's what I'm going to be looking for. Nova against, hopefully getting a nice number over 7 and at Providence. Mike, let me throw it to you. What's your first spot you want to bring up for Saturday?
I like Indiana in a bounce back, probably laying about 5 against Illinois. That Northwestern game, the Wildcats did a nice job trapping, Trace Jackson Davis in the post and really limited him in the first half. He ended up just being a stat sheet stuffer in the second half of that game. But Indiana in general, going back to Bloomington, is a huge benefit for them. They're the 4th best shooting team at home in the entire country. And then, as we discussed with Illinois, great at home, 12-2 straight up, 9-4-1 against the closing number. On the road, they're middling. They're 3-4 straight up, 4-3 against the spread. And when you look at their last 2 road games, they gave up 81 to Iowa in a loss and 93 to Penn State in a loss. Jalen Pickett gave them 41 points. So this defense has no floor. It can go, through the floor into the basement for how bad the Fighting Illini can be defensively when they play on the road. And then the final question is, do you want to go ahead and bet the opener with the question of, do we get Xavier Johnson back? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? All he said publicly is that he wants to play at some point this month in the regular season. Does that mean it's, on Saturday or not? I would say probably not, but I actually think that's a good thing in terms of Indiana against the spread here, because I don't want to see them lose any continuity or, try to waste time working him back into the lineup in a game that's critical for them. And also at, -5, it's probably a game that's going to be played in the, 2 or 3 possession range. So I don't want to necessarily take a step backwards with Xavier Johnson working his way back into the lineup.
Yeah, can't go wrong with Indiana at home this year. They've been an absolute wagon there. Big Ten home teams in general have just been red hot. BJ, what do you got?
Let's go Missouri. Pick them against Texas A&M. Missouri got beat by 7,000 points against Auburn on Tuesday. Great call, stuck. While Texas A&M, again, raced another double-digit deficit to win and cover at home against Arkansas. I was also in Arkansas, so that was very annoying to watch. But this Texas A&M team, they're just incredibly reliant on getting offensive rebounds and getting to the free throw line. They're top 10 in the country in both those. In every other offensive category, they're average to below average. Now, Missouri is terrible defensively in both those categories, but they are a top 30 team in points per possession allowed in transition defense. They defend mid-range jumpers really well, and they're very good defending isolation sets, which are all 3 areas that Texas A&M is a very high-frequency team on offense. And the other end of the court, Missouri is a really good offense. Like, they attack the rim at a very high rate. They're shooting 64% on those shots, while Texas A&M is allowing close to 60% at the rim. Missouri also a very good 3-point shooting team, over 34% in conference play, top 40 in the country in open 3-point rate per shot quality. Texas A&M, decent 3-point defense, but is middle of the conference in 3-point rate allowed. Also, the free throw variance for Texas A&M and this is why they keep winning these close games. It's crazy. I mean, they are hitting 75% of their free throws in conference play, but their opponents are only shooting 68% from the free throw line. So Missouri's only lost 2 games at home this season. It's been to Kansas and Alabama, who are 2 of the best teams in the country. So I think this is a good spot for the Tigers, good bounce back spot after the loss at Auburn, an extra day rest. So give me Missouri, pick them at home in Columbia.
Love that one. That was one I had circled as well. I finally get to say my Cats, Kentucky at home against Tennessee. Yes, we're right back on the Tennessee fade train. I think Kentucky matches up pretty well with Tennessee, as we saw when they went on the road and beat Tennessee earlier this year as 12-point underdogs. I don't think we're going to be getting 5 or 6 as that line would apply, but I think Kentucky wins this game. They match up pretty well because Tennessee's an elite defensive team, and they take away what you want to do. But Kentucky doesn't really want to do much except, use their talent and athleticism to beat you one-on-one, and then they can have Sheba get some offensive rebounds. And so they can give Tennessee problems with their length and athleticism. The same thing's on the other end. And then most importantly, Oscar Sheba is a liability in some aspects in post defense, and when teams can get him in pick and roll and they have bigs that can shoot. None of those things Tennessee really does. They don't have so this is a pretty good matchup just schematically for Kentucky. Enormous game for them. I think if you win, you're probably really close to in. And then Tennessee's coming off that emotional win over Alabama. I'm still in the neighborhood of selling them. So yeah, give me Kentucky all day here. Mike?
I'll go way down the board here. Vermont laying 10 at NJIT. Just stroll into Newark and walk out with a victory. And I actually say that in a serious tone because NJIT has been great in America East in terms of playing at home. They've either won or taken the top teams in the AE all the way down to the wire. But this number, if you can get it sub 11.5, 11, 10.5, somewhere in that range, I think that's the way to go because Vermont finally turned the corner. They had a very slow start to the season. They're generally considered to be one of the best mid-major programs in the entire country, but it took a while for them to gel. Dylan Penn and Finn Sullivan to really come together and start carrying this team. And now when you look at AE conference play, they're second in offensive efficiency, top-rated defense. And that's a huge thing in terms of being able to play good basketball on the road. They have the highest turnover margin in the conference at plus 4.5 per game. They rarely ever turn the ball over. And just historically, with this head coach, they've been the class of the American East against the spread. Last 2 years, 23-10 against the spread in conference play. So I'll go ahead and finally count on a little, regression from the Highlanders at home for a team that's played so well throughout against the Catamounts, who are just, at this point steaming towards yet another regular season title and probably another ticket to March Madness.
Nobody strolls into the Estelle and Zoom Fleischer Athletic Center and rolls by double digits except Vermont this weekend. BJ, what else you got?
Let's go Wisconsin at home against Rutgers. Rutgers has looked terrible without Mawat Mag. They lost at Illinois, lost at home against a really bad Nebraska team. Now they're traveling on the road to face Wisconsin after they just beat Michigan. Wisconsin offensively, they're either getting the ball into the post or they're shooting threes, and there's really no in between. They are the second highest frequency post-up team in the country, which is good against Rutgers, who is outside the top 250 in points per possession allowed off of post-ups. And again, they're still without, they're going to be without for the rest of the season, their second best big men. Rutgers also 285th in the country in defending catch and shoot three-pointers, which is where 24% of Wisconsin's shot attempts are coming from. Also, Rutgers, number 1 team in the Big Ten at forcing turnovers. It's why they've been one of the best defensive teams in the country. Wisconsin, one of the best offenses in the country at not turning the ball over. So they'll be able to neutralize one of Rutgers' biggest advantages. And Rutgers offensively, they just want to get the ball inside and right at the rim. Like they're 6th in the country in terms of efficiency of finishing at the rim. Wisconsin is top 40 at defending at the rim. But when you look at how Rutgers performs once the ball gets further and further away from the rim, it's pretty bad. They're shooting just 30% from mid-range, 32% from beyond the arc. Wisconsin very good at defending in both transition, while Rutgers is also top 60 frequency team in transition. So I like the spot here for Wisconsin. Also, Rutgers, I think, is still dead last in Haslam metrics away from home metrics. So good spot here for Wisconsin at home. They'll likely probably be a 3 or 4 point favorite, so I'll play them anything up to -6.
Yeah, they really missed Mag on the defensive end. He was uber important for a lot of things that they did on that end of the floor. I'll throw out. Let's go with Vandy at home against Auburn. Auburn's off that, huge blowout win, and I still don't trust their guards away from home specifically. They're a little erratic. They take poor shots. And Vanderbilt, they run some of the best stuff in the country offensively, and everything is clicking right now. I think Liam Robbins can present some matchup problems to Auburn and their elite rim defense. He can, kind of take their big away from the rim, and they're just running such good offense, and it's all clicking right now for Vanderbilt. And who knows, Vanderbilt, you win out, they could find themselves maybe on the bubble, but they're playing so well right now. I like them at home here in this spot. Mike, you got any others?
I got one more. Gonna fade the best team in the state of Georgia, of course, referring to the Kennesaw State Owls. I'm gonna go with Queens, not the borough, but the team. The Royals. Catching 10 on the road, and Queens has lost by 10 points or 10 points plus just once the entire season. A 12-point loss on the road to LaSalle. When you look at their losses in the A-Sun, they've been absolutely competitive from start to finish. Their losses by 5, 9, 1, 5, 7, 6, 4, 4. They're always hanging around because they have really good guard play for a team that's in transition up to the Division I level. Kenny Dye and AJ McKee can fill it up. These two guys can put in 50 points plus for the Royals here, no problem. Their defense does stink. It absolutely is awful. Horrendous. But they already played Kennesaw once this year. They lost by 9. And in that game, they ended up scoring, I think, 44, 45 points in the second half. And it's up against a Kennesaw State team that doesn't play super fast. And they're not a great shooting team. They're pretty good by ASUN standards, but not top 100 in any of the meaningful metrics. The last thing that's key for me that kind of tipped this in the favor of taking the Royals, Kennesaw 323rd in shooting foul shots this year, 66% as a team. I think that'll leave the back door open in the closing minutes, and I think the Royals get it done as long as you can get a good number. I'd say probably play it down to +9.
Yeah, another thing that makes this a even better spot is in the, believe it or not, Liberty and Kennesaw State tonight will play for first place in the ASUN. Winner that's probably going to win the regular season title. I mean, almost definitely, because they won't play again and they'll have a 1-game lead. They've only played once, so a tiebreaker. So Kennesaw State's either going to be coming off a huge win or a deflating win. Regardless, it's an emotional game against Liberty. And yeah, I agree. Those Queens guards can be electric. And yeah, I would love to get a juicy number there as well in a great spot. BJ, anything else you have?
I'll do one more. How about Arkansas at home against Florida? I mean, Arkansas obviously off that collapse against Texas A&M, but this is a good matchup for them. They should be able to dominate inside in the glass. Florida dead last in the SEC in offensive rebounding percentage, second to last.
And Colin Castleton's done now.
I was just about to say that. Colin Castleton's out for the rest of the season. By far, not only their best rebounder, but their best player. He's top 25 in the country in block percentage. So Arkansas, who's a top 30 frequency team in terms of finishing at the rim and shooting 66% on those shots at the rim, going against Florida, who doesn't have their best big guy, is very, very troublesome. Florida offensively was pretty reliant on Castleton. They don't take a high number of three-pointers. They're only shooting 32% from beyond the arc. Arkansas, top 15 in the country in two-point field goal percentage allowed, and only allowing 50% on shot attempts at the rim. So this is a perfect get-right spot for Arkansas, so I'll play them. Ken Palm has it at Arkansas -6. So I'll go up to Arkansas, anything -10 or better.
All right. Good stuff there. Hopefully Musselman plays his Lowry.
Let's hope.
Some.
Maybe Colin can give him a call.
Yeah, seriously. Colin, let Musselman know. That'll do it for us. Enjoy your romantic Horizon League evenings and Saturday slates.